Alright, today's episode of Adaptation Studies, is the Odyssey. Yep, we're gonna analyze the Odyssey and Epic the Musical by George Rivera Harris, I believe his name is, on Spotify. You can check it out just by typing that out. Okay, let's get into it. So we're gonna go over specifically Book 9 of the Odyssey by Homer, of course, and comparing it to one song from the Troy saga from Epic the Odyssey, and one song from and the whole album or saga of Epic the Musical called the Cyclops Saga. Epic is a concept album, so it's not an official Broadway musical or anything, but it's still wildly popular and has plenty of fans of its adaptation. And so let's get into it. Yeah. So, Lotus Islands, of course, is in Book 9 of the Odyssey. However, it only takes up about what you see here on the screen, this whole paragraph. A quick summary of what happens when they get to Lotus Islands. Basically, they were drawn off by winds, and so they went off course, and they wound up at the land of the Lotus Eaters, which is basically a food or like a fruit that makes you like drunk and like reliant on it, and so you want to stay there forever, essentially. That's what happens to, I think it's two of Odysseus' crew who go out. They don't want to leave after they eat it. Odysseus has to basically force them to come off the island and come back home. And then he like makes the rest of his crew not go, and that's about it. That's what the Lotus Islands are, or the Lotus Island is. It's just an island with that fruit that makes you want to stay on the island, and then if you eat it, you become a lotus eater. Who are people who are just addicted to this fruit, basically. That's the content of the book, at least, or the epic book, at least. Epic poem book, at least. However, in the musical, we get a pretty different situation. I'll play it right here. All the musicals used in today, most of the musicals examples used today are animatics by McScree. They are a very talented artist, but beyond that, I decided to use animatics for this instead of just a lyric showcase with the music, of course, because George, the creator, usually includes animatics in his official live streams when he debuts a new saga, so he clearly has an idea of these songs being portrayed with visuals, specifically animatics, so I chose my favorite animatics, and I wanted to get a visual representation as well, so it's more than just adapting the text into music, but also adapting it into visuals, at least this artist specifically. Alright, let's get into it. It's Open Arms.
You can relax, my friend.
Huh?
I can tell you're getting nervous, so do yourself a service and try to relax, my friend.
And fine, pull the tears.
Think of all that we have been through. We'll survive what we get into. I know that you're tired of the war and bloodshed. Tell me, is this how we're supposed to live? Look at how you grip your sword, enough said. Why should we take when we could give? You can show a person that you trust them when you stop and lower your guard. Here we have a chance for some adjustment. Give it a try, it's not that hard. I'm telling you, this life is amazing when you greet it with open arms. Whatever we face, we'll be fine if we're leading from the heart. No matter the place, we can light up the world. Here's how to start. Greet the world with open arms. Greet the world with open arms.
Stay back! my friend. Greet the world with open arms. We're only here for food. 600 friends are waiting for us to show our faces. Stay back, I'm warning you. If we don't get back safely, my men will turn this place into blazes.
See? This life is amazing when you greet it with open arms. Whatever we face, we'll be fine if we're leading from the heart. No matter the place, so we can light up the world. Here's how to start. Greet the world with open arms. Greet the world with open arms.
My friend, I wish that I could say that I agree, but look at the way this fruit is glowing and filled with glowing seeds. It took me a while to notice just what kind of fruit they eat. It's a lotus, it controls your mind and never lets you free. That's what we'd get with open arms.
Lotus eaters, I'd like to show my friend that kindness is brave. Could you tell me where there's other food to eat? A cave! You're saying there's a cave where we could feast. And where do we sail to find this food-filled cave? Thank you. This life is amazing.
So, I cut us off there because that's all I want to show. You can already see some pretty striking differences between the text I showed you, the block of text from the original, and the musical rendition of that. First of all, you have this new character. Well, you have this character who's in the mentioned going to Lotus Islands in the original text. He's Polites. He is in the Odyssey, although he's only named twice, and he's a pretty minor character. However, here he is no longer a minor character, and he is a pretty influential character. And we'll get into his big influential moment later. But here we get to see him give a whole lesson to Odysseus as they go into this Lotus Island and then meet the Lotus Eaters. And the Lotus Eaters have been unanimously depicted one way by the fandom, and that is in these forms of little drugged up creatures. That, in a way, I guess, is a social adaptation of the Lotus Eaters, in that these has become the new the new image of the Lotus Eaters compared to the book, where they're just regular people who just ate this fruit and are sort of brainwashed. But here they're furry little creatures, and social conscious, or the fan base, I guess, has decided that that is what they are, and that is what they will be forever. But yeah, you also get a large difference of pretty much everything that goes on. Besides people who eat that fruit get brainwashed, everything else is different. Odysseus is the one who went onto the island this time with his friend Polites instead of the two random crew members. No one eats the fruit this time. Odysseus has to drag anyone back to the ship. He gets directions to go to the Cyclops cave from these creatures, whereas he just wound up there because he was off course so badly in the original. And of course, narrative-wise, there's just so much dramatization and like narrative implements here, where like you get to focus more on characters in the musical, like minor characters like Polites, giving them more importance. Even Odysseus going through strife over how much he has had to kill so far on the journey, even at the beginning. None of this is in the book book 9 that this is covered off of. None of that is showcased in there. And it's an interesting change that we decided to focus on characters like that, and sort of having a concurrent like storyline of why they end up at the Cyclops Island, why they end up here and there. There's always a reason. Whereas in the book, honestly, it's just like because Zeus was an asshole and was throwing not storms, but winds at them. It's an interesting change. Also, It's interesting that the musical takes sort of a neutral storytelling point or narration point where it's not in the book, it's Odysseus retelling his own, adventure to a king, and he uses first person point of view narration, whereas here it's like a movie, and you get sort of just to see the events play out, and the camera is the narrator, and it's pretty interesting to see that stark change, which leads to um, a huge difference in the mediums. All right, but that was Lotus Eater Island. Now let's get into the meat and butter, which is the Cyclops Cave. In the book, in book 9, we get to see the Odysseus reach the Cyclops sort of um, living areas, which is like these islands and this big island. And originally they find an uninhabited island that is just only uninhabited island for the Cyclops that only has sheeps on it, and they basically eat a bunch of the sheeps, sleep there, and then Odysseus decides that he's going to go to the main island and socialize and see if they are an unruly people or if they could be reasoned with, and hopefully get a gift from them because he's a traveler. However, he does leave the rest of his crew and takes 12 people with him to go on this sort of venture into the Cyclops Island. And there he goes into the first cave he sees, and there is a bunch of livestock inside of it, lambs specifically, and cheese. And they want to steal some of the cheeses and eventually decide not to and wait for the Cyclops patiently. And that doesn't end up so well for them because the Cyclops basically goes, "Who are you?" That's what he asks. He wants to know who they are. They basically just say, "We're travelers." He then sort of, he gets mad at them because he doesn't care that they're travelers. He's not going to give them anything. He has no hospitality. He blocks the entrance to his cave with a big stone. They're trapped in there, and he decides that he's going to eat them. He eats 2 of them periodically, and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's honestly pretty graphic in the original story. Eventually, Odysseus decides to come up with a plan because obviously he does not want to die. He has wine that he got from Ismaris, which was a city they had ransacked earlier in the book. They give bowlfuls of it to the Cyclops, and the Cyclops loves it so much that he wants to thank Odysseus, and he asks him what his name is so that he can, be gracious and give him a well-earned present for being so kind. The Cyclops does get a name because Odysseus tells him that his name is No Man. Odysseus does this to trick him, obviously, because his real name is not No Man, and we'll see the fruits of his labor, of his trick later on. But here we get to see, of course, Odysseus using his cunning side, which is what he's known for, being a cunning hero. And he even is cunning earlier after the Cyclops asks him who he is. He tells him just that he's travelers, and then when the Cyclops asks where he landed on the island and put his ship, Odysseus says that Poseidon basically crash landed him here and that he doesn't have a ship, so that he wouldn't have to come out to the Cyclops and possibly die. Yes, next one though. After Odysseus tells him that his name is No Man, the Cyclops rewards him with being the last man to die of his crew, or of the 12 men that are there. Which, of those 12 men, he already ate 6. And then we'll see how that plays out in the musical.
Over here.
Look at all this food. Look at all these sheep. I can't believe this cave has all this for us to keep.
I've gotta hand it to you both. This is quite the treat. There are enough sheep here to feed the entire fleet. It's almost too perfect, too good to be true. Why would the lotus eaters pass up on all this food? Hey there! We're just travelers. We come in peace.
You killed my sheep. My favorite sheep. What gives you the right to deal a pain so deep? Don't you know that pain you sow is pain you reap? Time to drink your blood over where you stand. Your life now is in my hand. Before I'm done, you will learn that it's not so fun to take. You came to my home to steal, but now you become my meal. A trade you see, take from you like you took from me.
There's been a misunderstanding. We never came here to steal. But now that I see we've done some damage, maybe you and I can make a deal. I'll give you our finest treasure, so long as we leave alive. You can keep the world's best tasting wine.
Wine?
Have a drink, one sip and you'll understand the power that's in your hands. A wine so fresh, you'd never want to eat human flesh again. Then we shall be on our way. No bloodshed in here today. A trade you see, gift from you and a gift from me.
I'd like to thank you. Stranger, what's your name?
My name is Nobody, Nobody, Nobody.
Nobody. For your gift I've won to reply.
I'm so glad we see eye to eye.
Yes, you shall be the final man to die.
What? Watch out!
Yeah, so that's how it played out in the musical. Um, pretty pretty accurate, I would say, in terms of following the main plot points of what happens. However, there are still some differences. Um, primarily in the beginning, they shoot the sheep. In the original text, that does not happen. In the text, they don't kill anything. They just contemplate stealing the cheese. Um, you have a more sympathetic Polyphemus here. In the original, he is honestly just a bloodthirsty monster. At least that's my interpretation of his character. At least at first. However, in here, he's mourning the death of his beloved sheep. Um, and he comes off so much more wholesome than his counterpart in the book. Um, Another difference is the exchanging of the wine. In the book, it's 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 just really really strong wine. However, in this one, it's not shown, but it's Odysseus giving him wine that is infused with lotus flower, and that's how he gets him to later on collapse, which we'll see in the next song. Which is accurate, but he didn't collapse because of lotus fruit. He collapsed because it was just really strong wine from his Maris. But overall, I would say this musical is surprisingly accurate to the book and pretty much the same in terms of the music. It does elevate the the feeling of uneasiness and tension when you're reading it compared to the book because George does a wonderful job at using his, not just his lyrics, which are pretty good at getting straight to the point, but his music as well, which some of the some of the beats in there and the strings are so intense, especially at the end when it cuts off right before he's about to start striking them, and taking them all out. I don't know, of course, Odysseus says nobody instead of no man, but it's the same effect. It's to trick him. So next one we have is the song right after this, which is Survive. And there's some striking differences, which I'll talk about after this plays, which I'm going to skim through it though, because we don't need all of it.
My brothers, the rest of our fleet, they wait at the beach. And if we're defeated, their good is dead. Straight ahead, that is who we're fighting. No backup, no chance for support. So draw out your sword. Our foe must 100 lives at stake. It's just one life to take. And when we kill him, then our journey's over. No dying on me now. Defeat is not allowed. We must live through this day. So fight, fight, fight. Surround him! Surround him! Attack from behind! Keep distance in mind! And stay in his blind spot and strike his heels! When we kill him, then our journey's over. Push forward! We must live through this day, so fight, fight, fight! Captain!
Enough.
He's got a club! He's got a club! What are our orders? Captain! Captain!
You've heard me. It is over. You're dying here and now. Escape is not allowed. You won't live through this day now. Die.
So that song, the the Survive, which is takes place in the Cyclops cave, is very very different from the original text in the fact that it's all pretty much added content um, that we get to see. Of course, it's added fighting, it's added drama with Politis' death, and the only thing that really stays the exact same is Polyphemus is collapsing after drinking the wine. It's interesting that he added all this because, like I said earlier, it adds to the dramatization of the whole story. Having an epic fight scene is always preferred to keep viewers entertained. George does a very good job with the music, of course, as well. It's very epic music. Um, you get the chanting from the multiple soldiers who are striking, the belting from Odysseus as he's doing his big attacks. Um, that's one thing I love about this musical is the overlay of voices whenever the crew is speaking, and how that slightly gets quieter and quieter as the whole musical goes on because Odysseus loses more and more of his crew. Here, of course, you can feel it in full effect. They're all alive. And Odysseus, of course, took way more than 12 men to this fight. And more than 6 men definitely died. But the whole dramatization of it is really effective in getting you to care about these characters like Polites. Like, his death is very impactful and it influences the rest of the story in that it reminds Odysseus of what he lost as Polites comes back throughout the rest of the musical. At least the song does. And I think it's a lot of great additions to the original source text in changing it into a more traditional flowing story with characters and stakes and yeah. So as we escape from Cyclops' cave, basically, as we escape from the Cyclops' cave, they drive a spear. Well, they use the club that you saw in the musical, but that club is never used to actually kill people. In the original poem, they use that club, sharpen it. They cut it down, sharpen it into a big pointy stick, and then they drive that through the Cyclops' eye after he's drunk, in order to escape. After that, they hide, and you get to hear Polyphemus' brethren come to the door and ask him if he's okay. They basically ask him if anyone's attacking him, and they're like, no man, surely no man is trying to attack you by fraud or force, trying to kill you. And then Polyphemus does reply, no man is trying to kill me by force. And that's basically Odysseus' whole trick coming into fruition, his cunning. And they say, if no man is trying to attack you, then you're just ill, and you're probably fine. Better pray. We can't help you. And so that's his trick coming off. Odysseus is very cunning in the Odyssey, and that carries over through both adaptations. After that, Odysseus makes a plan because the Cyclops tries to let out his flock to graze, but he stands in front of the middle of the entrance to the cave, with just hands out, trying to feel if anyone tries to escape like that, to get revenge on Odysseus and his crew. Odysseus makes a plan to hide under the ram's coat, and it works, and they sneak out of there. But Odysseus' cunning sort of gets inebriated by his anger and pride when Odysseus shouts out to Polyphemus after blinding him, basically taunting him and telling him that it was Odysseus who took your eyesight, and ruined your beauty, which goes horribly wrong for Odysseus. It was a very big misplay because turns out Polyphemus is Poseidon's son, and there's a whole prophecy about this. And Polyphemus prays to his daddy to take care of Odysseus. We're going to see that all play out in this animatic called Remember Them by Wolfie the Witch.
Captain! We must move quickly. We don't have much time. He didn't notice I mixed lotus in his wine. Mark my words now, this is not the end.
But Captain, what do we do with our fallen friends?
Remember them when the fire begins to fade. For the fallen and afraid, we are not to let them die in vain. Remember them, we're the ones who carry on. The flames of those are gone, and our comrades will not die in vain. I need all our hands on this club. This is how we're getting out of here. Use your swords to sharpen a stub and turn it to a giant spear. Let's kill him. His body is blocked in the path. If we kill him, we'll be stuck inside.
Captain, where do we attack him?
We gotta stab him in the eye.
Yes, sir! Remember them when the fire begins to fade. For the fallen and afraid, we are not to let them die in vain. Remember them, we're the ones who carry on the flames of those who've gone, and our comrades will not die in vain.
Now! Scatter!
Who hurts you?
There are more of them?
Who hurts you?
Hide.
Who hurts you?
Captain, we should run.
Wait.
Who hurts you?
Captain, please!
Wait.
It was nobody. Nobody. If nobody hurts you, be silent. Don't go.
Let's grab the sheep and away we go.
Have you forgotten the lessons I taught you? He's still a threat until he's dead. Finish it.
No.
No?
What good would killing do? When mercy is a skill more of this world could learn to use. My friend is dead, our foe is blind. The blood we shed, it never dries. Is this what it means to be a warrior of the mind?
Don't!
Hey, Cyclops! When we met, I led with peace, while you fed your inner beast. But my comrades will not die in vain. Remember them. The next time that you dare, choose not to spare. Remember them. Remember us. Remember me. I'm the reigning king of Ithaca. I am neither man nor mythical. I am your darkest opponent. I am the infamous Odysseus!
Yeah, that was the Remember Them song. It's very, very, covered all the stuff I just talked about. But it was slightly different. You don't get, in the book, you get Polyphemus throws mountaintops at Odysseus after Odysseus shouts out to him. Polyphemus, of course, uh, talks about the ritual from a seer who told him he would get his eyes stabbed by Odysseus, and of course he prays to his father, um, or Poseidon afterwards, to get revenge. Um, that does happen, praying to Poseidon part, but it's off screen, and you don't get to see the effects of it until the next saga in this musical. Um, Odysseus, but a lot of things stayed the same, like Odysseus calling out about to Polyphemus um, and all this other stuff, stabbing in the eyeball on the nobody part. But some things that I've also found interesting here was, of course, we still stick to. I found it interesting that this musical focuses more on the main character like study of Odysseus and like how he feels and how he changes throughout his journey. Of course, the stuff that happens is still important, but it's not the forefront. What forefront is Odysseus and his connections and how things that happen to him change him as a person. Um, and in the book, it very much feels, because it is a retelling of just events, and it's from just that olden time period. It's more so just telling the events without really taking any introspection into how Odysseus is feeling. I think that's like the biggest drive of difference between these two works. The adaptation and the original is that big focus on Odysseus as a character and how he feels about things. which George does very well with musical motifs as well. I feel like the songs are so the song is so somber in the beginning of this part. Um, and Athena also does show up in this. I forgot to mention that, but she is basically Odysseus, her chosen warrior, warrior of the mind, specifically, and she is scattered throughout this whole musical, but she does not show up in the book once. I was shocked. But yeah, let's end this comparison. Let's do a quick summary of the added content in the musical. Athena, of course, like I just mentioned, has a constant presence in the musical. This whole song is in the Cyclops saga of Athena separating herself from Odysseus now because of his whole incident of naming himself to the Cyclops. That doesn't happen in the book, at least not in book 9. Um, yeah, Lumberman. Of course, the more sympathetic Polyphemus I already mentioned. Um, there's no sympathy at all for him in the original, but in the musical you get to see him crying and depressed. And of course, the more importance of Polites and his death is a major character. His death impacts Odysseus, and in the original, there's none of that. There's a little. I'm gonna skim through the song. It's basically Athena arguing with Odysseus about what it means to be a warrior and separated from him.
Mentally the rest. I don't know where I went wrong, but I warned you, and you failed the test. So now I'm gone. This way, you'll know what your place is. This way, you can't cross the line. This way, when all is over, you'll keep yours and I'll keep mine. This way, you won't disappoint me. This way, you won't waste my time. This way, I'll close the door. Consider this is my goodbye.
This way, you get what you wanted. This way, you can save your time. This way, you close the door and have your damn goodbye.
Yeah, um, yeah, that's that song. It's actually a really good song, but in terms of adaptation, it doesn't really adapt any specific scene in the Odyssey. It's just added there for more, of course, character drama and plot development. Now that Odysseus won't have the help of any godly intervention. Yeah, some cut content from the musical from Book 9. The sacking of the city of Ismaris. Basically, Odysseus and his crew go in a sack. Odysseus is like, we should leave. The crew are like, no, we like it here. We're going to keep getting more women and stealing more food. They basically drive out by the people who were able to reinforce, and that's a lesson of not getting too comfortable and staying driven to your goal. The winds of the hurricane and hurricanes from Zeus are what made them go off course. That isn't mentioned at all in the original, in the musical. Instead, it's just they were hungry, and then the Lotus Eaters told them to go to the cave, and the cave had food, and so they were just trying to get food. The slow consumption of 6 of the 12 men by the Cyclops. Yeah, that doesn't happen at all in the musical. The first is narration by Odysseus that I already mentioned. You don't get to go into really much of Odysseus's thoughts specifically. You get in his songs, he sings about what he feels, but you don't get to hear specific thoughts in a moment, like when he's fighting or when he devises a plan. You can just get to see him make the plan because it's a neutral point of view with the camera. However, you still get his thoughts expressed when he's singing. That's when they decide to go into the more introspective part is the songs that Odysseus sings. And then Polyphemus throwing mountaintops, talking about his prophecy, and Poseidon. Yeah, that's about finishes this adaptation study. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the slideshow format I'm going for now. Yeah, the end. Bye bye.